Hey, this is Mr. Spencer doing a video going over your timed writing strategies for this prose passage from your choice novel. What are you going to come up with here? So, why a timed writing? Before midnight by Tuesday, which is when spring break kicks off, you will be asked to complete a timed writing essay over a passage from your choice novel. We did this similarly to your summer reading choice back in August. Do you remember I gave you a passage and you had to write an essay quickly? You have 40 minutes to complete the timed writing. We'll do another one later with poetry after spring break to kind of finish up some of our poetry unit and the verse from Shakespeare's Hamlet at the same time we'll be reading. Remember, you must write 3 essays in 2 hours on the AP exam, which is in the beginning of May. So you're doing 3 of these in 2 hours. We're practicing one of them, okay, this next week. Here's what a poetry prompt would look like. You would have one with a prose passage, and I've put all those on It's Learning, so you can do them at home now, 40 minutes, or wait till you come to the classroom, and you can write it in class when you're here for whatever hybrid last name day that you're there, okay? So that's an example of what it looks like, and that's the type of the prompt, but this would be a poetry example. That's called Free Response Question 1, FRQ 1. We're doing FRQ 2 for this next practice. Your practice timed writing, remember, you're graded on the AP 6-point rubric. You can earn 1 point for your original thesis, up to 4 points for the quality of evidence, and then 1 point for your level of sophistication. So that should be 6 total points. Make sense? Ask yourself, think about it. What invisible power structures have we trained ourselves to identify and look for in the passage or the poem that you're tested over, okay? Invisible forces like prejudice, marginalization, agency, sexism, racism, ageism, capitalism, psychological power structures like a cognitive bias or conformity. Those are some of those invisible motifs that we've trained ourselves to explore through the subtext, okay? Look for these on your passage. That's what subtext would look like, right? It's the below the surface. The iceberg only shows you the tip on the top, but there is a subtext below where we want to train ourselves to look for, no matter what we're presented with. Invisible cultural elements, isms, agency, invisible power structures. So how can you explore subtext in 40 minutes? Okay, like hunting for invisible literary devices like irony or tone, remember? We're looking for this in any text, whether it's a poem or a passage. And even though a poem can have only a few words in it, those words are chosen very carefully, like the passage you're doing. Genocide, for example. If you saw a word like this pop up in your passage or a poem, it carries incredible weight to it. Power structures, influences, incredibly complex political ideas and behaviors associated with those 8 letters. Okay, just an example of how one word can have great significance. Okay, is there one word that unlocks the key to your passage? Are you highlighting or annotating it in those 40 minutes? How can you incorporate new strategies? My suggestion is to think of power as like a binary. Is there somebody in your passage that has the power, the haves? Is there somebody in your passage that does not have the power, the have-nots? The haves and the have-nots. Think about who has it and who doesn't. This use of binary opposition in literature is very common. I've introduced it to you so you can use it like a tool to help unlock subtext in your passage. Okay, so think about the power struggle happening in your passage. It might be explicitly on the surface or it might be implicitly, like below the surface. You got to look beneath. Okay, are there victims of the power struggle? Are the victims visible in your passage or are those victims invisible? Okay, think about these kinds of frameworks that you can apply. The timed writing essay, let's go back. Under time constraints, okay, you can handwrite this one. If we're in class, that might work for you, or type it on Google Docs. Either way, we're on hybrid, so I don't care if you finish this at home or do it when you're in the classroom, but you're not expected to spend more than 45 minutes on it. Please don't spend more than 45 minutes on it. It's not a polished essay. It's a rough draft, essentially. Okay, so you might spend 40 minutes writing it, and yes, 5 minutes revising it and maybe looking for editing or proofreading. But 45 minutes, then turn it in. I don't want this super epic polished essay. Don't turn in a super polished essay. Turn in the rough draft. I want to see the quality of your ideas, not about quantity. I don't need you to write 8, 9 paragraphs. Okay, I'm not looking for spelling, punctuation, or grammar errors. That's not what we're emphasizing here. Okay, most English classes, they prepare students to work through each step of this writing process: brainstorming, outlining, drafting, editing, revising. We can't do all these for these AP exam timed essays. So you should spend 5 minutes brainstorming or outlining your main ideas. 5 minutes, got it? You should expect to spend at least 30 minutes writing out your paragraphs. Get to the point. Okay, think about how you can manage your time. We did this previously too with our Great Gatsby essay, but you weren't given a passage for that. Okay, get to the point. Your intro can be short, clear, and concise. You don't need a polish, this is an epic essay intro. No, 5 minutes, move on. Get to the body paragraphs, okay? Here's a sample one that received a high score. The intro was only 2 sentences, okay? An AP reader gave this a very high score. It's only 2 sentences there, okay? That's an example from like a Great Gatsby essay. So how should you spend your 45 minutes? I would encourage you, read the prompt, annotate keywords in the prompt, 5 minutes. Outline 3 main ideas, 5 minutes or less. And then give yourself 30 minutes to write the essay in paragraphs. Okay, spend no more than 5 minutes on that intro in your thesis statement. Okay, the thesis is the most important sentence, but don't spend too much time trying to craft the perfect thesis statement. You get 1 point for having a good thesis or not. Okay, is your thesis there or is it not? That's what you get the point for. Okay, body paragraphs. I'm encouraging maybe 7 minutes per, and then a quick conclusion, 4 minutes or less. You might have 5 minutes to review or revise. 45 minutes is usually what you get on that AP exam window. Okay. Last year, students did this all online. They did it on the computer, and they were given an automatic clock, and it kicked them out after 45 minutes. Okay. So you might have a take-home essay in May this year because we're still dealing with COVID-19. Okay, so whether you're submitting it on the College Board website in May for the real thing, or this practice essay worth 30 points, you turn it in on It's Learning. Give yourself a 45-minute clock. Set an alarm. Okay, I'd set the alarm for 40 minutes. So then you know when the alarm goes off, you're like, all right, I got 5 minutes left and then I'm done. Okay, Mr. Spencer doesn't want me to spend more than 45 minutes. Why only 45 minutes? I want to see how you think. You're being graded on the quality of your ideas. I want to assess whether you understood the themes of your novel without relying on outside sources. I don't want you to copy or paste quotes from study guide websites, Schmoop, Blitcharts, SparkNotes. Don't do it. Don't spend 30 minutes reading SparkNotes or Schmoop, borrowing ideas from the internet. What are you doing? Wasting your time. A timed writing means you don't have time to space out or lose focus. Get it done. Get to the point. I had students in AP last semester try to copy from other websites like eNotes or SparkNotes. It took me less than 10 seconds to figure it out. Okay, I've been doing this for a while, so please don't try to fool me. Okay, sit down, give yourself 45 minutes. It's like the length of a Netflix episode of a TV show. Okay, maybe put in your headphones to help you focus, and don't go to other websites. Don't be opening up multiple tabs. Okay, don't even rely on a dictionary or a thesaurus because you can't rely on that during the AP exam. Okay, rely on your brain. You've been working on this brain for 16, 17 years. It's a pretty sharp tool. You're submitting a rough draft, remember. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's rough. You absolutely should include quotes from the passage. This is a must. We didn't do that in our Great Gatsby timed writing because you were just given an open-ended prompt. Okay, this one you're given a passage and you can see words from that choice novel. So you're pulling out words that you might use in a quote. You will not lose points for misspelling a word. You will not lose points for forgetting a comma. You won't lose points if your intro or conclusion are only 1 or 2 sentences. Okay, but your body paragraphs, those should be bigger. If you want to photograph a handwritten essay at home, make sure the brightness makes everything visible. Look at it before you send it to me. I'd prefer a typed copy because it is easier for me to add comments on it, but you can send me a handwritten one or turn in a handwritten one in class, okay? And I can send you a photograph or pass it back to you with gloves, pass it back in class, okay? Look forward to seeing what you turn in. What's the biggest mistake students make is summarizing. Don't just summarize the passage. This essay is going to ask you to analyze. So you should spend 90% of your essay exploring complexity, offering new claims, interpreting significance of themes, symbols, motifs, characterization choices by the author inside of that passage. Okay, the most immediate elements you can analyze are diction and syntax. You're given the passage, so look at the diction and syntax choices that are right in front of you. Look for patterns. Okay, hunting for patterns is a good skill for an AP student to constantly be doing, and I've been trying to train you to do that. You're doing a great job. But don't summarize the plot. Don't summarize the story itself. Don't summarize the sequence of events within the passage. An AP reader does not care. That's not analysis. Okay? It might help you to paraphrase or summarize the passage, but don't do it in your essay. Okay? You should have no more than 1 or 2 sentences summarizing the context about what's happening. The prompt already kind of summarizes for you the context of what's happening in that scene. Okay, so you don't need to summarize plot and story. Like this happened, then this happened, and then this happened next. Nope, don't do it. But it's a common mistake because many students feel comfortable doing that, and it's easy. It's a shortcut. It's not analysis, though. Okay, cardinal sin. Don't spend too much time on the intro like SpongeBob here. Don't spend too much time on that intro. Move to the body paragraphs. Get to the point. So, examples. I showed you these from December when we did the Great Gatsby timed writing. But now these are, if you had a passage from Harry Potter, summary versus analysis. Okay, you can look over the differences between that. Don't do what's on the top. Do try to adopt the style on the bottom. It's analyzing, exploring complexity. Another example from The Great Gatsby. Don't summarize the passage. Maybe Nick and Gatsby meet. I don't care to summarize the story of the meeting. I want you to analyze, look for literary elements, the verb choices like characterizes and symbolizes. Okay, functions. Those are useful analytical verb choices. And you almost see a little thesis statement here. It's not a thesis summarizing the story or the passage. It's a thesis that offers claims, 3 main ideas that support a larger argument. Okay, you might disagree that Gatsby's hydroplane symbolizes anything. That's what makes it a solid thesis, because it's disagreeable, it's arguable. But I made a bold claim here, and then I tried to back it up. Okay, pause, rewind the video if you want to look at that more carefully, or just check the slides. Okay, I'm almost done here. Just some traits of summary, traits of analysis. Okay, we went over this. I did a teaching video in December, but just reminders. Okay, analysis is you examine and interpret each element. You don't just identify the element. Don't just identify things. Don't just point them out. I see this, I see this, I see this, I see this. That's not analysis. Once you see it, examine, interpret, and explore how it connects to other elements. How does the characterization connect to the theme? How does the irony connect to the tone? How does the irony and the tone connect to the theme? Explore how those elements interact with each other. How do each of them interact with invisible power structures? How does the power influence certain elements of characterization? Show how those elements interact with each other. That is complexity. Explore complexity without oversimplifying it. That's how you get that sophistication point. Sophistication is exploring complexity without oversimplifying. Okay, so you'll see things on the surface level, but you've got all these other things that you could explore that are often invisible. Okay, train yourself to see those. Don't just analyze above the surface. Okay, the Titanic didn't see that iceberg, but you've learned from the Titanic, haven't you? So, how do you write a great essay quickly? Don't spend more than 5-10 minutes on an outline. Not enough time. Avoid plot summary at all costs. Give analysis, not a rehash of what you read. After you finish reading the prompt, make a list of things that you really want to touch on in terms of ideas and evidence in the essay. This list should include any key words that you highlighted in the prompt. What were the verb choices in the prompt, for instance? Support and develop the points from your first paragraph in your body paragraphs. Produce a solid yet refreshing conclusion. A one-sentence conclusion is better than none at all. So give some sort of conclusion, some sort of final transition into that conclusion, like ultimately, or all in all, or in the end, or in conclusion. Give some sort of signal that you've now shifted the tone into the conclusion of your essay. Got it? Common suggestions. Here's my last slide. Add a creative title with a possible subtitle after you finish. It's hard to do that at the beginning, so that might be the last thing you do, those final 15 seconds. Okay, you have a general title, but it's really sophisticated if you can add a more specific subtitle after the colon. Right there. Where's the colon? It's next to the L key on your keyboard. Okay, you do press shift to use the colon with 2 dots. You don't press shift to just get the semicolon. I'm looking for a regular colon if you use that subtitle. That would show a level of sophistication right off the bat, because the title is kind of how you get your first impression out. Ideally, a great thesis should offer a rationale as to why the author made the choice that you were arguing they made. So here's like from The Bonesetter's Daughter. Amy Tan does this, but what's the rationale? She does this in order to emphasize. That's my rationale. In order to emphasize a theme. That's the meaning of the work as a whole. The meaning of the work as a whole is like a theme idea. Okay, use the word theme to get the reader's attention. Be like, yep, I'm doing a theme statement. Okay, use literary terms here to signal to your AP reader that you're playing with sophisticated literary elements. Got it? Your thesis should be at the end of the intro, and it should be arguable and debatable. If it's not debatable, it's too easy, and it's not complex enough. You want to take a bold stance on something. Okay, consider saving space on your paper to revise or craft your thesis after you've written some body paragraph analysis. So you might skip 1 or 2 extra lines. It's no big deal if those extra lines end up in the final draft you turn in, but maybe skip 1 or 2 lines after you write the first few sentences and maybe give yourself time to revise that thesis once you've had 20 minutes to sort of let it germinate. Okay, that's one little tip you might try. And avoid using weak, unassertive words like seems, perhaps, maybe. Don't do them, guys. I try to point them out over and over that they make your arguments less assertive. You sound less confident. They are weaker. So if you said like a character, perhaps Ruth is fooling herself, writing Ruth is fooling herself. Okay? Consider which is more persuasive. Does that make sense? Now maybe this didn't make sense because I adopted this from a previous example from The Great Gatsby, but that's what I was working with. That's my last slide. All right. If you have any final questions, let me know. Give yourself 40 minutes to write the essay, set an alarm, and then give yourself 5 minutes for any final revisions and to make sure you have time to turn it in. Okay? By Tuesday, March 9th, midnight, spring break starts. So I need this before spring break. I can't wait to read what you've written. You can look at the passage on its learning or wait till you come to the classroom, and I'll have paper copies in the classroom if you're able to join us there. You can write it in the classroom whenever you're here for that class for hybrid, or you can do this at home. Just give yourself time before midnight Tuesday night, and don't wait till the last minute. Come on, get this done, especially while the novel is still fresh in your mind. You just finished reading it, right? This is Mr. Spencer signing off. Oh yeah, you got this. It's gonna be awesome.